for those who have showed... All right, thank you. All right, welcome everyone to our FAST meeting today. For those in person, feel free to grab some pizza before we pass it over to our speaker. For everybody, if you could please sign in with the QR code. Again, this really helps us stipulate to ASI how many people we're offering services to, and can use that to advocate for more funding for more cool things like the AWS cloud deployment of cybersecurity labs that we did last Friday. Hopefully some of you were here for that and got to enjoy that. But yeah, if you could please take a moment, if you haven't already, to sign that QR code or post that link in the chat. That'd be appreciated. Thank you. Alrighty. Again, for those who are new here, please feel free to take a moment to scan the Discord or the link tree. These links here are going to give you some critical resources to help keep up with what FAST is going to be doing in the upcoming semester, upcoming weeks, etc. So all of these links here will be where you get information about upcoming events, such as today's talk, which is really, really cool because it's our first in-person guest speaker. Regarding some announcements, we have our cybersecurity research project. Where is Jack? Yes, we got our new, why not come up here and say a couple things. I'm really pleased to introduce our new cybersecurity research director, Jack Woline. He'll be doing a very cool project on web security and exploitation, I believe. So I'll pass it over if you wanted to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, my name is Jack Woline. I'm, as you said, your newest cybersecurity director. So a little bit about the project. It's going to be, I'm going to go into it, but if you're intimidated by it, don't be, because I'm intending for it to be a little bit more beginner friendly. Basically, how many of you guys have heard of OWASP's Juice Shop? Can I get like a show of hands?
Heard of what? I'm sorry?
OWASP's Juice Shop? Like, nope. Some of you? Okay. So for those of you that haven't heard of it, it's basically like a website that's intentionally broken. So it is something that has vulnerabilities baked into it. And we're going to be, or our team is going to be working on making something just like that. It's going to be with intentional vulnerabilities, and it's going to be for, like the purpose will be for security researchers or anyone that wants to mess around with it to learn more about vulnerabilities. And on the way, we'll be learning about it. So that's the research part. If you're interested, then please feel free to scan the QR code.
Thank you, Jack. All right, I do really want to take a moment to, again, heavily emphasize the sentiment of our first speaker of the semester, Greg. He really, really emphasized the importance of getting hands-on, and all of you are here at Cal Poly Pomona. So I do hope everyone sees that value of being hands-on and building a project to show that you are able to show future employers that, hey, I've been able to build something of value and deliver that value to those who maybe need it. So that is definitely something to consider. All right. With that, I would like to introduce our speaker for today, Mac Sippial.
Yeah, you're close.
Okay. He can correct me when he comes up here. But he'll be talking about security incident and event monitoring. We saw briefly, for those who were at the workshop on Friday, that there is a lot of data and logs and all sorts of data points that security teams have to keep in track of. Even from a brief, like 2-second packet capture, that's thousands of packets already. So how do security teams and organizations as a whole effectively aggregate, parse, and manage all of that data to make effective responses in the event of a security incident and filter out all the noise, etc. So with that, I would love to invite Mac up to take the stage.
Appreciate it. Everybody, thank you for your time today. Thanks for having me. Thanks to Daniel for inviting me, and I'm really excited to kind of share more about my company, Sumo Logic, how we're helping global organizations protect their environments and their data from threat actors, from hackers, and a little bit what I do at Sumo Logic. So if I go ahead and share my screen, we can go ahead and get started. I think we're good.
You should be able to just across onto.
Stop share. And then, cool.
Okay. This might be. Drag this line here.
Just know that this never stops. All this mechanical IT stuff, it never stops, I promise you.
All right, there you go.
Cool, I got it. Cool. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm Max Sippial. I'm an enterprise account executive at Sumo Logic. Sumo Logic, we're a security company, and what I do is I partner with large organizations to help them use Sumo Logic to protect their data. I work with a lot of accounts that are here based in SoCal, but also some that are based in Arizona, Nevada, things of that nature. So I work with people like Daniel on a daily basis on making sure Sumo Logic is a good fit for their organization. What I really want to kind of talk to you guys about today is how Sumo Logic is utilized. Obviously you guys are familiar with cybersecurity, but I kind of want to speak on the process of like, what is a log? Why do logs matter? How do security analysts use logs to format their understanding of an environment, their infrastructure, and how do companies use Sumo Logic? So starting with, I'm sure you guys are already tracked, cyber breaches and ransomware events and things of that nature. But what happens when a company like Netflix or a bank is actually attacked by a cyber threat? What are they actually doing to detect that and actually respond? So it starts with the logs. How many are you guys familiar with like security logs and security data? Okay, cool, perfect. So quick background, a log is a digital diary entry. So for any activity that's happening on any application, that could be me logging into my MacBook at a certain time. That could be me using my key fob to get into a building. All these things are trackable and they all create logs. So what does a log message actually look like? It looks like essentially this thing right here. I'm sure, I don't know if you guys are more savvy, but this looks pretty crazy to me. And this is what security analysts have to look at on a day-to-day basis to understand what's going on in their environment. But you can see it's tracking the date and time, it's tracking the where, so maybe your IP address, your MacBook, your phone, and also the who. So is it your user ID, your username that this company all has? These are all things that the logs are able to spit out and security teams have to analyze. So why do logs matter? How do people use, oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry about it. No, it's not the share on Zoom, so I just want to reshare it.
Oh, I'm sorry, people on Zoom are not seeing it.
Real quick. There we go.
Okay, cool, perfect. So yeah, why do logs matter? Why are teams using logs to detect cyber threats and not other forms of activity? I think, I'll give you an example. Two types of activity, either normal or suspicious. You guys use the campus Wi-Fi. I just logged in today on it. That's all potentially normal activity for a student when they're logging into the Wi-Fi, and this is all going to be tracked by a log. But suspicious activity could be that same account, your student user account, logging into the Wi-Fi from somewhere like Russia, somewhere like China, things of that nature, especially when it's out of normal times of activity. So it could be at 2, 3 p.m. in the morning, 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. It could be at different time periods that are not normal to your user account. These are what security teams have to analyze. They have to filter through what is the normal activity, but also what is suspicious to be able to identify anomalous behavior. These things are how, logs are essentially how a team would connect the dots between what's going on from all their different sources, their data applications, their infrastructure, whether that be on premise, in the cloud, all things of that nature. So where does Sumo Logic actually come in and where do we provide support? So as I kind of mentioned before, these companies, they're generating millions and millions of logs on a daily basis. They have thousands of systems, and we saw the log message before. They have to look at 1 million of those. So how do companies and how do security teams actually centralize that? Well, they use Sumo Logic to collect all their data from their different sources, whether that be data that's in the cloud, on their endpoint, on their email environment, on their VMs. Sumo Logic acts as a single pane of glass for security analysts to come in and analyze all their data and act as a central hub to be able to monitor that data, detect it, and respond to it in as fast as possible so that this threat actor doesn't move across their infrastructure. So I would say Sumo Logic, on top of that, on top of being a log analysis tool, being a cloud security event and management tool, is that we also focus on implementing AI into all these processes. You saw the log data before, that log picture. Like, if you have to go through millions of those on a day-to-day basis, how are you actually finding the stuff that's actually the most important? So essentially, our A prioritizes the most high fidelity or most important alerts. That way we can pinpoint the areas of risk and potentially compromise and pinpoint that to the security analysts and show them a feed of what's going on. How you doing?
Can I add something?
Yeah, go for it.
So just to give you some background on how enterprises would tie in something like this, let me throw in some details. So a large corporation like my company, where I work on a daily basis, is like global, right? So we're all over the world, many countries and stuff like that. So if we take this tool and we say this is going to be our, log aggregation tool, the first thing that'll happen is we have to start this long process. We'll call it an initiative, a security initiative, where we have to go to every system and make sure that it's integrating or sending its logs to this tool. That's a big effort. There's resistance, there's avoidance, there's incompatibilities, and so there's a large trick into getting everything in there. And then that's where, now that we've achieved that, that's where the sophistication of what he's going to talk about next comes in, because there's a lot of noise, right? And just to take that another layer up, every system that's in our enterprise may produce logs. Who says that those are sufficient or not? So defining what sufficient logging means, like the minimum logging criteria, is what a company like our company would do, because they all fall short. So if we have a custom developed application and they create this logging, they might be falling short of those necessary log elements that we need to feed into intelligence like this. So there's always a cleanup exercise, there's a large security initiative, and we're always chasing some margin that didn't fit or something like that, or somebody's resisting. And when you deal with a global organization like where I work, different countries have different cultures, and they're like, we're not listening to you, or they'll talk to you, you disappear, and then they just like pretend you didn't talk. There's a lot of things. So a lot of project management, a lot of driving, a lot of validation. Okay.
For sure. Yeah, and I mean, to pinpoint on that, my job is, as an account executive, is I work with companies to, from the beginning of their introduction with Sumo Logic, and what that looks like is we go through what's called a proof of concept or a proof of value. And so that's exactly going through that security initiative, is understanding where your key data sources are within your infrastructure, then taking the process of using Sumo Logic's APIs and things of that nature, ingesting that data into Sumo, so that then the correlation can then start. But it's just it's a huge process to get everybody on board, because different people manage different sources. Some people want to, keep control of their data. They might not want to share just because of potential security risks they might think is there. But at the end of the day, the security team needs all this data to be able to monitor on and be able to understand what's going on and provide visibility. So yeah, as we kind of continue, I just want to give you guys a real world kind of example. So I'm sure you guys get emails all the time. I do, like, as a Sumo Logic employee, I get fake emails from my boss, from my CEO saying, hey, Mac, sign up for this, or hey, Mac, go buy these gift cards at yada, 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 for this potential customer. I get this type of stuff all the time. And so what's the actual process of like clicking on one of those email links? Then how does that transition from, okay, now a threat actor is potentially in your environment? What are the logs that are going to show that? So it might show on your MacBook, on your phone, where you actually clicked on that. But then also, if you're logged into your company's network or your VPN, is also going to show up on the firewall. So Sumo Logic acts as a way to analyze all that, ingest that data, correlate it, and then pinpoint the area or the flow that the threat actor is taking within the environment. So a couple things I want to share with you guys, like, what is the day in the life of someone using Sumo Logic today, like a security analyst? When they wake up in the morning, what are the things that they're going to actually be checking? So a couple things is there's Sumo Logic dashboards. As I mentioned before, overnight is a huge period of time when threat actors are trying to break into your environment. So any alerts that happened from that 5 p.m. when work stops to that 8 a.m. time period, these are going to be high fidelity alerts for any team to analyze. On top of live activity reports for things like user behavior, seeing if any accounts were potentially compromised or any user was just accessing files or data that is not normal to them. These are all things that Sumo Logic tracks to understand about the companies and that user's behavior. So if they're doing something that is not normal, we can pinpoint that to the security team. And then Daniel just mentioned this, like working with a global company, you have to follow different privacy laws like GDPR, but you also have to meet compliance like HIPAA, SOC 2 compliance, PCI compliance, things of that nature. And it's all different based on which country you live in. I sell to companies that are based here in the US, but they also have wings that are in the EU, and they care about a lot different aspects, and they're a little bit more stringent on their data. So these are all things that you can track within Sumo. I'll show you real quick what the actual Sumo dashboard looks like. So this is the Sumo Logic Cloud SIM. So if we start at the top with A, that's 7 million records. It's all the logs that are coming in through the environment. That trickles down to over 100 something thousand signals. But the key thing for security teams is that insights. That's where the correlation happens. That's where you can go in and see what was the flow of this incident, where is the threat actor potentially living, and also how can Sumo Logic help you respond. From there, we can see how many insights are potentially within the environment. But what I really like is this wheel flow in the middle on tab C. This shows you your overall data ingest and data flow over a 24-hour time period. So as I mentioned, some companies and some industries might have high peaks of traffic where that's 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the morning when everybody's logging in, or that might be at night when people are making more purchases from that 8 to 10 window when they're just kind of on the laptop, on Amazon, buying something just in the middle of the night. These are going to be ways for you to be able to track where your data is most persistent and where you have those spikes and peaks. And then lastly, as I mentioned before, the insight is essentially what sets Sumo apart. A lot of SIMs in the market today, they stop at this 100K signals. So what we do is take it further by correlating to reduce that number down to about 3 or 4 incidents. This saves like a lot of security teams, a lot of my customers, a lot of time, because instead of having to go through 100K signals, each one looking like that log message picture I showed before, they can look at 3 insights that actually shows the flow of what happened. And then one other thing I want to show you guys, obviously like AI is huge right now. There's so many companies and teams that are trying to utilize AI. There's so many companies and teams that are trying to figure it out because there's so much variability with it. This is how Sumo is using AI in the market today. So we have a couple of different agents that are installed on the platform. These help summarize security incidents, but also triage and investigate an incident to all the way to detecting an incident. These are all built into the platform, and we use it under our Mobot. I think, I don't know if you guys use AI tools today to, maybe present, build a PowerPoint for a presentation or do some homework just to, like, if you have math problems that you want answered. But I think for myself, like, I use it on a day-to-day basis, and like what it does is it saves me time at the end of the day. And so for these security analysts that not only have to focus on security, but also have other IT projects that they have working on, this can save them hours in their day to be able to focus that on more IT level objectives that are going to drive the business instead of just investigating threats. Any questions here on like how Sumo Logic uses AI today in the marketplace for a lot of our customers? Cool.
Can you see a problem with us using AI for something like this?
Like hallucinations, it might detect suspicious activity when there's no.
So false positives?
False positives.
Yeah. Okay. What else? So you're a large enterprise. Let's say you work at my company. I work at Universal Music Group, so we're a music company, right? So we have all this secret information in our enterprise. This tool is using AI. A problem with that? Yes.
Maybe taking secret information out of where it's supposed to be and spreading it.
where it's not supposed to be.
Well, maybe the information itself won't be in here, but metadata about that information can be in here, logging activities, stuff like that, right? So what would be the problem with that then? What's out there? Can somebody enumerate that information and come in and steal something? Maybe? Yes?
Yeah, I mean, if the AI is taking in like that information as like part of its data set, there are ways that people can like, you know, that you can access the information from an AI that like you're maybe not supposed to. Maybe the AI wasn't supposed to have that information for other people to find out.
So this is a question that companies are asking right now about AI. Like, they'll go and shop these products and then say, oh, you use AI? And then the privacy and legal teams start debating about, can we contract with this business or not? And there are answers to mitigating risk in this domain, but I just want to get you guys thinking about that. I just want to see what you thought.
I do have a quick question on that. Is it like
Speak up.
Copilot, I think, has been saying that at least our school, anything that we enter in that stays within the school, like some like organizational protecting thing. Is that kind of
So
what you're talking about?
there's a dilemma in the industry right now. I'm going to relate it to a previous use case that came up about 10 years ago, and that's like cloud computing. See, in cloud computing, you have your data in some co-tenancy arrangement, right? So you're at Microsoft Office 365 or Microsoft 365, and you're a tenant amongst other tenants, so you're all logically separated, right? And if you're talking about data storage, the dilemma there was like, our data's in the cloud. This provider can look through our stuff. The answer to that was encryption before loading the data, right? And so we control the encryption key so the provider can't see our stuff. So that was a very strong technical boundary, and that solved the problem. We're in the same predicament again with AI but it's a different use case, a different dilemma. The large language models that are used to leverage AI and continue training it, right, are out in the open. And the value of AI is the crowdsourcing model, right? Which the more it integrates with the world, the more it knows, right? So how are you going to take these corporations that have proprietary information, use the same tool, but keep it outside that aggregated domain? That's the dilemma right now. So the providers are saying, when I say providers, I'm talking about Google, so Gemini, all these providers, right? They're all claiming that they can segment off the corporation so that their data doesn't get introduced into the large schema. But how do they do that? It's not under our control. So it's more of like a faith gesture, and that's the dilemma right now in the industry. But giving you an example about Copilot in a modern enterprise, there could be a control at the tenant level that says, hey, do not allow these types of information to Copilot. That's how I'm seeing corporations set that up right now. So they can kind of limit what's introduced into Copilot as a mitigation, but again, we saw that dilemma. I don't see anybody answering that yet.
I think another point to call out is like with all these AI models is like, what is this data trained on? And I think someone said hallucinations, but you know, if the data is not trained on accurate information, it's not going to provide you with the right, you know, set of actions or feedback. And so like things like having things like Sumo Logic's AI agent, making sure that it's trained on maybe the MITRE ATT&CK framework, or as Daniel kind of mentioned, we have a way to take customer data, anonymize it, you know, encrypt it, but we're using our AI and we're training it off of that data. Now, so some customers, you know, may not love that perspective because they feel like their data is, you know, at risk. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think that's kind of the dilemma that we're facing is like, how does AI, how do these agents get better? And if we're not accessing the correct data, you know? So as we kind of move forward, I think that's something that you guys to kind of think about just for the industry itself. So yeah, as continuing, like some of the industries that I work with for myself, and I think Sumo Logic plays really well in, is regulated industries like financial services and healthcare. I use, you know, my mobile banking app, my SoFi. You know, I have tons of transactions I do on a daily basis. They have millions of customers. These are all things that Sumo Logic has to collect the logs for so they can help to monitor on. But also things like healthcare, helping them to meet their HIPAA compliance, and also making sure that their systems are up and running. These are life-critical systems that healthcare operations have to maintain. And then things like digital platforms, so like something like a Netflix, a streaming service that has to maintain uptime for all their users and keep an amazing digital experience. These are all organizations that Sumo we're working with today to help maintain their cyber posture. So kind of as we just spoke on AI, like it's growing at a crazy rate. Literally threat actors can go online and buy like malware as a service and pay subscription models to essentially like malware software. And so what that means is that like, you know, the access to these type of threats, the way like with ChatGPT, you can literally just type in and be like, hey, how do I want to break into this specific organization? They're using these softwares in place right today. What is the potential vulnerability? There's just so much potential out there for risk that companies need some type of tool to be able to analyze all their data. So just to kind of wrap up for you guys, I think, you know, Sumo Logic's formula is taking the logs, utilizing our platform and partnering with security teams to provide protection on a global level, like for companies like Universal. If you guys want to take, you know, a further stab at like learning more about Sumo Logic or SIM, we do trainings, free trainings, virtual workshops as well. Literally just type in Sumo Logic training and you can sign up for a webinar. But then also like dive deeper into like AI, security automation, log analysis, what those things look like. And I think it'd be super helpful for you guys as you kind of grow in your career. That's all I have for you guys today. Any questions, any topics that you guys want to answer? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so actually, I see a lot of people from the Security Operations Club.
Okay.
And they use Splunk, right? A lot for, you know, like providing opportunities for students to get hands-on here. And I believe Splunk has a free version, and that's what you guys are using?
Free? Is that what you said? Free? Wait, I didn't hear what you said.
There's no free version of Splunk? Is that what you guys are using, or is there a US?
Yes, there's a trial version for Splunk.
Okay.
But the school also has a license for Splunk Enterprise.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm just kind of curious if there's like ways for students to get involved with Sumo Logic's platform and kind of get hands-on.
Yeah, for sure.
In addition to like the workshops.
Can I respond before he answers? So a lot of companies are tired of Splunk. I'm not saying Universal is. I'm not saying that at all. But I've been around several companies, and they're tired of Splunk because it's very expensive. And here's the dilemma. So logs are very, you know, loaded. Let's just say they're very loaded. And so so if you put all that stuff into Splunk, then it's great. It's in the SIM, but are you using it? That's the dilemma. So what we're finding is that tools that are not so expensive but can accept all the logging are highly marketable right now in the security market space. But as a mitigation, what I'm seeing companies do to continue using Splunk, sometimes they'll offload a subset of their logs into something called like Datadogs. It's cheaper, right? They still have to pay for the space. But what I'm seeing people do now, which is quite interesting, you heard of Cribble? So they're using Cribble, there's a tool called Cribble, to kind of parse the logs down to a more reasonable size. Then they're not paying so much, they're economizing their space. So they're like getting rid of all the stuff that doesn't matter in their logs. And so that's one way. It does other things too, but I'm keeping it high level. But I will tell you that if you look around the marketplace right now to job openings, I'm seeing Sumo Logic come up. They're looking for people that know how to use Sumo Logic. Like I said, my opinion is that a lot of companies are tired of Splunk because they've been around so long, and there's other things that are out there that sometimes work a little smarter.
Yeah, to answer your question, there are tools like you could sign up for a free trial of Sumo Logic today on the website, and then start playing around with it, and you could ingest endpoint data, firewall data, whatever you want, and then as far as like outside of the workshops and webinars, we actually have like a new kind of training and certification model that's coming out here soon. So that'd be something that I would look into and recommend for you guys, just as like kind of badges that you can put on your LinkedIn and things of that nature, just to say, you know, as jobs are looking for more people using Sumo, that you're proficient in it. But yeah, I would go to the Sumo Logic free trial for that. Any other questions? Oh yeah, go for it.
How would you, there's kind of like two answers questions. So
Hmm.
as like someone who is learning how to use this software, how would you like know that you are confident and you are 100% like knowledgeable
Hmm.
in using the system, using these things?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't have any experience, I don't know anything, I don't know how to get into it. And I know like this is what we're learning.
For sure.
But how would you know that you're proficient in it enough and confident in it? And then you as someone that would be looking, and you already know,
Mhm.
someone that's looking for people to join your team,
Mm-hmm.
how would you know like if you know what you're doing at 100%?
Yeah.
How would
Yeah.
you know that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I'd be curious to hear what your answer on it too.
Okay, so you're really talking about incident management security capability in that question. So when there's an incident, there's how long did it take for you to find the problem? How long did it take for you to respond to the problem? How long did it take for you to remediate the problem? Those three metrics and what it takes to articulate in a conversation. Like, I'm using this tool and I found this problem. I was able to isolate based on priority because the tool told me this. And then I was able to engage this team that did that. And we were able to that would be the whole conversation. So there's no one size fits all on these tools. A lot of times you need multiple tools, and this is one out of maybe 3 things at minimum you'd be needing to respond to an incident. So to answer that, if I was interviewing somebody for a SOC or something like that, I would be looking to see like, what's your experience in identifying, prioritizing, responding to, and remediating threats? Sometimes it's not a single team, a single person effort. There's a team, there's hierarchies and stuff like that. So that's what I'd be looking for.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, so I mean, there's kind of like a graduated process into learning those different functions inside of SOC. But that's where I would, if you're interested in that type of stuff, my advice is to focus on what it means to perform incident management, incident response specifically, and then all those different seats in that team, and then learn them all, and then you'll be able to have that conversation and get into that job.
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback off that, there's a lot of functions within the security team. I think there's a lot of tools out there today to like get certifications and training on what you care about. So it could be system integration, it could be security analysts, things of that nature. It could be focused on cloud security. You could be focused on IAM security, like identity and access management. It really just depends on like what you kind of care about. And I think you guys you're on the right path already. Like you're in the right rooms and you're hearing about the right technology today. So just getting hands-on with that, like signing up for a free trial, saying that you have experience, doing a webinar just to show that you have some type of certification. I think that goes a long way. And then kind of to like the metrics that Daniel was kind of pointing out to, Sumo Logic, we have it in the platform where we can measure those type of KPIs that a team is looking for. So how fast do you detect and respond to threats? We all, like in the platform, you can see by analysts how fast they're doing it, how fast they're mitigating or responding to something. So this is all trackable. But yeah, I think just like being hands-on with what's out there and showing that you have the experience for it. So
I'll add to that. So every security domain has its own ways of working. So we just talked about like incident management stuff. But if I turn around and spun that to vulnerability management, I then have to look at what kind of vulnerability management. Is it application vulnerability management? That's a whole different section versus infrastructure vulnerability management. And you have somewhat the same metrics, like, okay, how long did it take us to detect these vulnerabilities in the environment? How long did it take us to communicate that to a team? How long did it take for them to remediate it, for us to validate it, and close the case? Like, there's all these metrics there too. So every domain has its own like sophistications. I think, you know, student clubs might focus on one area, but there's so much more. So.
Any other questions? Gotcha.
I want to see, like going into college and leaving high school, were you always determined to go into cybersecurity, or that was kind of
Yeah, that's a good question.
kind of like your background into?
Yeah, for sure. So my background is I actually went to school for finance. So I actually didn't go for like IT or cybersecurity. I think that just growing up, I always was someone that was hands-on with computers, troubleshooting things for like my family and my parents and stuff. And so it was always something I was interested in. I think after I graduated, I more so realized that even though I got a degree into finance, that I didn't necessarily want to go down that path. And I think cybersecurity was like, at the end of the day, there's always new things that are happening. And so like, I'm always looking for something that's innovating very fast, but also like is a challenge for myself. And so I think cyber kind of aligned with like what I was doing, but not realizing it. And so, yeah, for me, it's been I'm glad that I made the switch. Yeah, I would definitely say like it's for my career journey and everything, it's been extremely like beneficial. I don't know if I stated, like I'm originally from Alabama, so I'm not from California, but I've been here 3 years, and I probably wouldn't be or like be in a room like this today if I wasn't in cybersecurity. Any other questions? Oh yeah, go for it.
What was the most rewarding and most challenging part of your job?
That's a good question. So like for myself, like as account executive, like I think at the end of the day, my job is to close deals for the company. So that's obviously like super rewarding when you are working with a potential customer for 6 to 8 months of interacting with different people, from their security engineers to the CISO to their finance team to potentially their operations team, because these are all pieces that you need to coordinate and have talk together to essentially get the deal closed. So I think that's something like, you know, just working on those accounts that take like 8 months, you know, that you didn't know if you were going to get or going to close. I think that's super rewarding. You know, I would say as far as what's most challenging, I think on the same token of like what's most challenging is closing a deal, because for a global organization like Universal, you have people that you might have to coordinate in the US, but then also in the EU or in China. You have to get all these people on the same page and to buy into like Sumo Logic is the right fit for this organization. That's a lot of moving parts, you know, and kind of we spoke to like just even setting up integrations and what data sources you want to bring into Sumo. Like there's a lot of people who have different opinions on that. And so just making sure that you can align on that, I think is probably the most challenging. But like you said, like I was mentioning before, like when that kind of all aligns and it's pointing to that North Star, that's where you know you see the rewards. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah.
So as you're in your role as an account manager, for an organization of global scale, is it just you, or do you have a team working with any particular prospective client?
Yeah, great question.
Like how would you, are you any kind of...
Let me mix that up. Let me mix that up real quick. So let's suppose he's selling to us, and I'm talking to Mac, and that's great, but that doesn't mean anything, right? Like I'm one of many, you know, leaders in the company. So I'd have to get functional level engineers involved, other leaders, my peers, to have this conversation.
Yep.
And then we'd want representation from like our global footprint. And so any one of those guys can come in and say, I've got this concern, and so what about this, and what about that? And then that can put a bunch of wrenches into the discussion. And then they have to figure out how to satisfy all these permutations.
For sure.
And so it's always going to be like a cross-functional representation, and that's just the beginning. Because when we come to terms and say, okay, this makes sense, you know, let's prove the concept and test the tool, then it's like, okay, we found these little things. How is this going to work? How's it going to work? We get through all of that, and then the fun begins, contracts. So now we have our legal team, our privacy team, our HR, and all these people looking at stuff on our end, and they have their people looking at stuff on their end, and they go back and forth. It could take months.
Yeah.
And then, and it's funny because some companies will come in with their legal instruments, these documents, they sign here, we're like, nope, we'll change it, send it back to them, they'll change it, send it back to us, we'll go back and forth until we get to an agreement. That's why he's saying, that's the most rewarding piece, crossing the finish line, because it takes a lot of work to get there.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, it's just about like, as I think of my job as the quarterback of the deal or the project, is for myself, and I'll speak to what your question before is like how other people fit in, but I have to manage a lot of different people and get them all focused on the same thing. So I also have a counterpart who's a solutions engineer. He's way more technical than I am. He's been working in cybersecurity like 20 years. So what he does is during those proof of values or those proof of concepts is actually the technical piece of getting their data ingested into Sumo. So he works with like the log messages I kind of showed you before. He can understand that and understand like what that is saying, what data they need to extract from that, and how to help them respond. So to help like manage a global customer, there's myself. We also have a solutions engineering team. We also have once they get onboarded as a Sumo customer, we have a technical account manager. We have a more technical or key solutions engineer that kind of handles that specific account. So it's not just me that has to work with this customer. I'm supported and I help support a greater team within Sumo that is essentially a lot of our efforts are focused on making sure this customer is utilizing Sumo and having a good experience. Any other questions? Go for it.
We talked about a little bit of what it takes to technically get together a solution for a client, but in regards to soft skills, what are the kind of essential things that you and your team need to have to successfully pull off?
Yeah, good question. I would say you have to be curious. I think that's huge for myself and just in my career is like you have to always be wanting to ask questions and want to know more about their situation. For account executives, like I feel like I'm a salesperson, so a lot of potential customers are turned off from salespeople. So what that means for me is that I have to be aware of that, but I also have to come with a prepared opinion. So being a thought leader, having my own expertise and say on the situation, but also just being someone that is like asking questions and trying to understand more. I think though that goes a long way. But other soft skills I would say is just like being confident, having presence when you talk to people. I work with a lot of individuals like in cybersecurity teams that are, I would say like 30 to 50 years old. I'm 28. Like how do I align with them? How do I speak their language? I think understanding my product, doing research on their company to understand what industry they're in and what they're facing, you can bring your own opinion and they start to trust and respect what you're saying. Me and Daniel just met a couple weeks ago at a cybersecurity event and where I had to pitch Sumo along with a bunch of other vendors. And I think I did a good job because he brought me here today. So, any other questions? Yeah, go for it.
Tying back into that experience portion of it,
Mm.
you mentioned that maybe three years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, I think, who come to FAST maybe have that feeling of, I know I for sure came to FAST and I was like, oh, I only have one HTML class and I was going to do management, human resources, and how I'm doing computers, which I never thought I would do.
Mm-hmm.
How did you kind of approach learning something so potentially different from what you were previously studying and do it fast? I'm trying to get it out of my head. I think you must have been out of college when you decided to make that switch then?
Yeah, just about. That's a good question. So I previously worked before Sumo Logic at another company called Darktrace. That was my, I guess, real first entrance into cybersecurity. I think how I kind of approached making that switch is, like I mentioned, it was always something I was interested in, but like there's so much to know, there's so much going on. Listening to podcasts reading articles that are related to the industry, I think are huge, because there's a lot of different things and just different attacks and vectors that people are talking about that you're not familiar with. But also for myself, like to get up to speed on like what I'm selling, which is obviously Sumo Logic, but Darktrace at the time, is we have call recording software. So when other people are in calls, I go back and listen to those calls and be like, and understand like what are the top things that a CISO is saying, and I'll write those down and I'll make a note of that and then go research that. That kind of helps me, in a sense, be able to take that same information, that same flow or structure to my next customer call. Even if I haven't been through it yet with a customer yet, I can speak to or like look at one of my coworkers and what they're doing and how they handle that situation, and relay that in when I'm faced with the same thing. I think that goes a long way. It's just like it kind of goes back to being curious. You can't. For myself at my organization, I work for remote companies, like it's really easy to get siloed and just focus on your own work. And you have to be someone that's willing to collaborate and willing to like ask questions and go learn. And so I think for me, it's just like reaching out to my coworkers and asking questions, trying to see what they're doing, is what is working, and where like Sumo Logic is potentially a good fit. I think at the end of the day, it's just you have to be curious, and I think that it'll take you a long way. And I feel like you already are. You're asking multiple questions, so you're on the right path. Nice. Cool.
What time do you guys have? Yeah.
What time do we have?
Actually, yeah, that is a good point. We
Okay.
are at 10 minutes. The next class typically barges in right around now.
Okay.
Maybe time for one last quick question if anybody wants to. Were there any questions on Zoom? Or
If you guys don't have a question, I'll have a question for you guys. Like, what's most exciting to you guys right now in cyber? For me, I would say with AI and like how companies are like inputting data into like ChatGPT. But like, what is something that you guys are like focused on or like are curious about? Yeah.
So for me, I've been bouncing around between different career ideas, but I'm really interested in going down the auditing path.
Okay.
So like right now I'm taking an auditing class and I'm doing a risk assessment for like a client that I help support in the travel agency business. And so I'm learning how to do that, and I was interested in how like Sumo Logic has like how it can help with like risk assessments and like auditing software and the network.
Yeah, for sure. So like I would say Sumo out of the box, we help companies meet SOC 2, PCI, HIPAA compliance. So these are all dashboards within Sumo. So once we start to ingest and collect all that data, we can visualize it for you on your SOC dashboard, on your HIPAA dashboard. And so like when you have an audit coming up, you can literally export that data out of Sumo and then send it off to the auditor.
Oh, okay. So it already has the pre-configured controls for like whatever. Like if I had a mistrend that I was following, you could use that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
good. Nice. Yeah, no, it's a huge pain point for a lot of our customers, is compliance.
Yeah, because this is like at least for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Figuring out what framework we need to follow with the client, and then doing the report and following back up with them, and all of that is like, it's a lot. But if this has like the capability to help, that's interesting to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. If you want to chat about it some more, I actually like built my own kind of like compliance calculator.
Oh, really?
And it kind of like you put in all these inputs, and it will essentially like show you how much you could be spending on compliance, and then how much you could potentially save, and then what tools to potentially use, like based on what compliance frameworks you're trying to meet. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'll let you go.
no, definitely appreciate that. Like that was a lot of questions. I hope you had fun answering them.
No, definitely.
But yeah, Michael's got his own business too, so like that's a really thing. But yeah, thank you all for those who came in person. That was like that was really cool. And then thank you all for those who came online. I do want to finish off with a couple quick announcements. A recruiter who's kind of a friend of the club reached out recently regarding a CrowdStrike open house in Irvine. I don't recall the dates off the top of my head exactly, but we have 5 potential spots for those who might be interested. It will be, I want to say 1:30 to 3:30. I can confirm the dates and times, but 5 potential spots. So if you're interested, reach out to one of us on eBoard, and we can get you the information necessary for that. Yes, definitely sign up. That you get to meet the recruiters. I think last time they had like 3 rotations, and you get to talk to different business areas of CrowdStrike. So very cool opportunity there. And yeah, so with that, thank you again. We can go ahead and close out. Feel free to hang out and mingle